Hello and welcome back to HEMA Fight Breakdowns. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Up until now, I have been doing mostly reviews of individual techniques, plays. I've tried to keep the context of the fight, the tournament, the people in it out of it. Mostly so, nobody really gets mad at me, but also so I want to make it clear that this is not a critique of any one individual person. But I've been getting asked more and more to do reviews of entire fights at the behest of the people who were in them. So we're going to give that a try. So how this is going to work is I'm going to play through the whole fight, exchange by exchange, and talk about what I would have said or what I would have thought if I was cornering for each person. And the idea here is that if you're one of the two people in here, you can take these tips and try to apply it to your own training. But also, as I think is going to happen, you're going to see a lot of things that happen to a lot of people, probably even yourself. And hopefully these tips will apply to you as well. So here we go. All right, so first exchange. Basically, fencer on the right transition from their Oberhau to a long point style guard or a plow style guard. And the fencer on the left attempted to clear that point and throw a counterattack. Right at the point where this happens, the clearing action of the person on the left misses. The point instead goes forward and I think just misses over the top right shoulder. They take a hit on the arm. So real quick, real easy, simple exchange. If I was talking to this fencer, I'd say, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a good job. If I would say this fencer, just a little bit of bad luck, make sure to really plant that point because that's your defense. Right, so the judges agree with me here. They thought that this thrust missed over the top of the shoulder. This one landed. I think they said it landed on a high priority target. I can't see that from my camera angle, but it doesn't really matter. Same clearing strikes as before. So this time, a similar situation to what happened before. The clearing strike happened in the tempo before, didn't amount to anything. And rather than throwing any clear this time, they just sort of went in for that hand snipe. The person over here also went for the exact same thing, which is that just thrust. But what there is to talk about here, and if I was giving advice, is to tell this person to make sure to thrust in a bind. We'll go over it a little bit more in detail at the end here, but right now these thrusts are all coming in low, which means there's no defense, and this person is just trying to go for the hands, which doesn't protect them from that thrust. All right, so same thing again. We got that clearing action, that attempted attack towards the arm, just a little bit out of range. Maybe an attempted leg touch here from red. Actually, I'm going to have to watch that one again. I heard a noise, but I don't think it was maybe what I thought it was. Oh, yeah, a little inconsequential touch to the knee. I don't think that was necessarily even on purpose. But yeah, so nothing happened here. And here we see the same thing again. So we see the fencer on the right holding out their long guard, their point forward guard. And we see the fencer on the left, sometimes not, making attempts to clear that point out of the way, but mostly just going for shots to the upper arm here, while the fencer on the right constantly stabs low. And the problem that we're running into here is that whenever you stab low, there's nothing that keeps you safe up above. And both fencers are basically getting stuck in a loop I would call like a very typical loop called I'm hitting, therefore I'm winning. Especially in competition, there's a kind of mental thing that happens whenever you're landing hits and that you're getting that positive feedback, that mental feel good that tells you you're doing well, when in reality, it should be that clean hit that I defended, I attacked, and I defended afterwards. That is what you're going for. So we'll keep going. A little bit of a set from that one. Makes sense. All right. So honestly, a better exchange. Same formula as before, but some little adjustments are happening. So if we slow it down bit by bit, we still have this engagement. We now end up in a situation where a person on the right is in their long guard. And after that, you could call that a clearing strike. They go for their follow-up here. They don't quite make it. And then rather than simply, staying in range and stabbing low, they got out of range, waited for the miss, threw that stab in over the hands. Very important, because now when this attempted clearing strike happens, it doesn't work. And more importantly, when they try to go back, they're sort of bound up a little bit. Again, from basic advice, both people are doing, I think, exactly what they are trying to do. This person is still trying to clear past that point. This person is still trying to assert that point. The only thing I'd say for both of them is try to make sure that when you clear that point, you advance even further forward for the person on the left. And for the person on the right, whenever you land a stab, wind up afterwards. If we go back and we watch this, there was a point where that stab landed, and if they had continued to drive their hands forward and up into their opponent's sword, they would have been safe from this afterblow here. Now, I believe in this particular rule set that afterblow did not count, but all the same, it's a very simple thing that you can do. Every time you land a thrust, continue your forward motion a little bit, not with the point and hurt somebody, but with your hands and rotate up. And what that does is it basically puts you in that defensive position where you can easily defend an afterblow by putting positive pressure on your opponent's sword. Clearing action attacks still happening. All right, that was a good little exchange. So we have this clearing action and attack here from the person on the left, a tactic they've been using over and over again. Not to great success so far, but it's still a great idea because that clearing action protects them from the thrust that they've been getting hit with. After they separate, there's another attempted clearing strike, a miss, another attempted follow-up, reposted thrust, up high again this time, very nice. Cleared again, reposted again, and this time we see exactly what we saw before with this person on this person's side. When they got to the point where they had successfully cleared the strike and struck their opponent in the head here, the one thing they needed to make sure of was that they defended themselves from the afterblow that was couched down here. Now, whenever you hit somebody, whenever you try to stab low, this is your biggest problem, that you have nothing up here. But the same goes in the opposite direction. If you deliver a strike up top, you're vulnerable down low. So the next thing you need to do is you need to bring your hands back low and defend yourself and get out of range. Instead, they take another step forward and they accidentally walk right into that afterblow. Again, in this particular rule set, that does not count, so you can say that's more or less okay, but still something to be aware of. Okay, a little bit of a break from the formula. I'm not going to talk too much about this one. Basically just a non-committal strike from the person on the left. Once it missed, a more committed strike from the person on the right who tags the head a little bit. Right? So this is another thing that I think is learnable for a lot of people who are newer, which is that sometimes when you don't commit on your first intention, that can happen a lot. Where sometimes the first person who commits properly will land. And if two people come at each other, one person commits and the other person doesn't, that's a great way to put yourself in a bad situation. I think a lot of people for their first action try to feint or just, throw something from outside range to see their opponent's reaction. And that can be fine. But if you're not maintaining your distance properly and you throw that non-committal strike, all you're really doing is giving your opponent an opportunity to throw something more committed back at you at the same time. You basically put yourself in a situation where you had nothing to gain and you had everything to lose. So if I was cornering for this person, what I basically be telling them is, you're doing great with these deflecting cuts on your first intention. Go back to doing that. Okay, same thing again. An attempted deflecting cut, didn't really make it, but that second attack was properly committed. I can't see from here whether or not it landed on anything. This judge clearly thought so, but that's exactly the kind of formula I think this fencer is going for, and one that's been working for them. Let's try to skip past the deliberation here. Good. Another great example. Deflecting cut, hand shot. Same thing again. Great. Keep doing it. All right. But now we're unfortunately back to the original problem. If you don't clear and you've missed, you know that thrust is coming. And what you have to make sure of is that when you commit, when you re-go in, and after you've separated, you still have to keep throwing those deflecting cuts. You've been doing it up, if again, I'm talking to the left person here. If you've been doing it every single time you enter range, do it then too, because right now, every single time they fail to throw that defensive action as they step forward and they just attack, this is what's happened every single time. Fencer on the right, same advice as before. You have to bring those thrusts up, at least over the level of the arms. And the reason for that is even though you might not land them, you will be safe when you do land them. In this situation, every time you stab low, you should be getting hit up top. The only reason you wouldn't be getting hit up top is if the other person was simply not committing and chasing your blade. Yep, another perfect example. A non-committal initial strike that did not hit anything, did not need even to be parried, simply was walked out of the way. The repost coming straight in, and because the arms were so low in this particular case, it was actually impossible for the fencer on the right to stab low enough. So here, actually, you know what? That's actually great placement. Right in the neck. Perfect. There's really nothing you should have done here differently, other than maybe get out of range a little bit more. But at the end of the day, there are certain situations where this is a sport and there's nothing you can do. If you stab this well and this high and someone just comes up and taps you on the hands, I would say that there's basically nothing you can do about it. And just, you have to take those sometimes. The judges are saying that there was a hand shot here. Let me go back and watch that. I'm not sure what they're talking about. So let's slow it down here. Comes in. I don't see any meaningful contact here. At best, you might have gotten a glancing shot off of the spez here, like the spez thumb or maybe the knuckle. Not a great shot, I think, either way. Whether or not it should be called or shouldn't be called, I wouldn't say. I don't really care. Get past that deliberation again. Decent hand shot, maybe a little tippy, but fine. Okay, that time I would say there looked like there was some hand contact coming in from the initial action. But basically, another instance of doing a great job. This is an unfortunate pause. It looks like he's about to pull his groin. But as you were to come down here with the sword, I see a pretty clear contact right on the hand right there. And then at best, the only thing you could have maybe done is try to go into a hanging parry or just throw up that wall parry because you know that afterblow is coming. But, you know, as things happen, it happens. Everyone takes those hand shots and immediately throws an afterblow. That's what you should do. And it's on the judges to determine whether or not that hit was valid coming forward or not. Okay, so they thought it was in tempo. You could argue whether it was or not, but it definitely happened. Okay, talking about something. There we go. This looks like it might be last exchange. All right, good hand shot. So, that's the whole fight. In review, I think the primary thing I would say to both people is work on those deflecting cuts that they clearly love doing, and good. That's a very good thing to do, especially against someone who has a point forward guard. But what I would say to work on for the left fencer is whenever you throw those deflecting cuts, to maintain a bind for just a hair longer, just a little bit longer. and to continue to move forward when you get those good deflections. The reason for this is whenever you put someone's point offline, your next goal should be to get past their point. Because if someone is in a point forward guard and they throw a stab at you and you make them miss, your defense comes from the fact that they have to pull their hands all the way back to a point away guard like Vomtog or other in order to then deliver a cut or another thrust or anything. So whenever you land those good deflecting cuts, continue to march forward, work on your Zverkows. They're usually a great follow-up after a deflecting cut. Or just continue to go for arm shots, doesn't matter, but just get closer, get further in there. For the fencer on the right, my advice would be to keep doing what you're doing as far as your point forward guard for. It's clearly very comfortable for you and it's working. Just keep those stabs up above the hands. It's sometimes very difficult to do that when your opponent isn't playing your game and going into a point forward guard as well. But what you have to watch out for is every time you stab low, you are giving your opponent an opportunity to hit you up in a higher, up in your higher openings. And from a tournament format, that means you're going to double a lot. And from a martial perspective, it means you're going to get hit a lot. So if you want your stabs to land and be able to defend yourself afterwards, put them either on the level or above the level of the hands, and you're going to find a lot more success. All right. That's going to be it for today. Hope everyone liked this new format. It's probably going to be a little bit longer than some of the other videos, but you know, if people like it, I will certainly do more of them. And as always, if you would like to have your own fight reviewed like this on the channel, all you have to do is send me a link to it or a video for it at HEMAFightBreakdowns@gmail.com. Thanks, and I hope and see you next time.